Voting is now underway for the USG elections. Find out how you can cast your ballot.
Gas prices are on the rise, and the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine is likely to make things worse. We'll explain.
And a popular local park gets $1 million makeover. See what people in the community have to say about it.
Annenberg TV News is next.
Voting is now underway for undergraduate student leaders. Good evening, I'm Cassie Esparza.
And I'm Sydney Charles. Voter turnout is typically low for these elections, but candidates are hoping that that's not the case this year.
Students lined up outside Tommy Trojan to cast their ballots, and they walked away with a free donut. We spoke with voters to hear their takes on the election.
You know, I see student government as the best, like there are legitimate problems on campus, and I see student government as the best way to address those. I'm pretty happy with what I've seen so far, and can't wait to see who won.
I think student government does a lot of great stuff for our school, and so I'm glad to support what they're doing, and I think that they do a great job of listening to student voice.
There are 3 tickets for the presidential election, but only one is on the ballot. Hannah Woodworth and Nivea Krishna, and the other 2 are write-ins, Kyle Valdez and Sefal Menji, with Rachel Lee and Colin Colson.
We encourage all students to vote. Your vote is your voice. To cast 1 PV VP vote, and they're allowed to cast up to 12 senatorial votes. They are also allowed to not abstain from voting if they so choose, and then they are allowed to do a write-in option as well.
If you're planning to vote, you choose 1 president and vice presidential candidate. For the write-in option, you will need to type in the candidate's name manually, and then select 12 senator candidates. You can vote online at usc.edu/sa/USC-USG-elections. The Los Angeles County Department of Health has confirmed that its mask mandate will be relaxed beginning this Friday. People who show proof of vaccination will be allowed to remove masks indoors at places that verify vaccination. USC has not yet announced any changes in masking policy here on campus.
The United Nations Security Council has scheduled an emergency meeting at the request of Ukraine amid threats of a Russian invasion. International leaders are appealing for aid and protection for Ukraine.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine is beginning. Hours after Russia recognized the so-called Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics as quote-unquote independent, President Putin authorized Russian troops to enter those regions. He has taken other steps that amount to a direct assault on Ukraine's sovereignty.
Ukraine's foreign minister told world leaders that the country is hoping for peace and a diplomatic solution. UN diplomats are currently working on a resolution to declare a possible Russian invasion a violation of the UN Charter. The Russia-Ukraine crisis is also affecting prices at the pump here at home. The cost of gas in LA County has hit a record high over the past 3 weeks. The average gas price for gas in California has hit a record high. Gas costs more here than anywhere in the country. Prices may go even higher if Russia cuts down on the exports in response to sanctions by the US and Europe. The increase has hit some commuting students especially hard.
Everyone is always just more conscious about driving places, mostly just on like when you actually need to fill up gas, you're like, oh shoot, like I need to fill up gas. And it's kind of more of a sinking feeling than it was before, I guess. Especially when it's starting to get like empty, or like the tank is starting to get empty, you're like, oh, like maybe I should drive anywhere except school today.
A year ago, the average gas price in Los Angeles was $3.66. Last month, it had gone up to $4.67. Now, the current average has risen to $4.79. The U.S. is not the only country dealing with the increase in gas prices. Europe is also facing a similar situation.
Part of his expectation that something bad will happen. U.S. with its commitment to NATO has to provide energy resources Europe needs, and U.S. itself needs to import. So the question is how we can handle all of that. So you can see that there is a panic evolving.
Experts believe that prices may top $5 a gallon soon.
The LA County homeless count is underway. Let's go to our reporter Liza Monasebian, who is live at one of the volunteer sites.
I'm here in South Robertson, where tonight, starting at 8 p.m., volunteers will gather to count the number of unhoused people living in Los Angeles County. This work is essential for providers to receive federal funding and to understand just how large the unhoused population has become. Volunteers will count from their car and use an app to keep track.
There's so much visual homelessness, when you see tents, encampments, but that really doesn't tell the whole story at all. There are lots of people who don't want to be seen. And so the count is really about trying to get an understanding of where those people are.
And it's important to know where the concentration of homeless people are so that those areas can get the most funding to help the most people.
This is the first time since 2020 that the count has happened after being postponed due to the pandemic. In 2020, LA County had 66,436 unhoused people, a 12.7% increase from 2019. And in the city of Los Angeles, there were 41,290 unhoused people, a 16.1% increase from 2019. There are several locations throughout the county where volunteers can go, and the efforts will be continuing through tomorrow evening. The Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority is still looking for more volunteers to help out. For Annenberg Media, I'm Liza Monasebian.
This week is National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. The annual campaign aims to raise awareness of eating disorders while providing hope, support, and visibility to those affected. The National Eating Disorders Association reports that nearly 29 million Americans experience eating disorders. Among those who are anorexic, up to 80% were found to compulsively exercise. In an 8-year-long study of 500 girls, 13% developed eating disorders by age 20. We talked to an expert about how these widespread issues are.
There are statistics that I'm sure you have that are, something like by 4th grade, many young girls are on diets that when people ask women what their greatest fear is, it's the fear of getting fat. The diet industry is one of the largest industries in the world.
This year's NADA Week theme is See the Change, Be the Change. It's a call for action for destigmatizing eating disorders, legislative advocacy, and a celebration of continued progress in the field.
The Los Angeles City Council has approved a plan to reduce speeds on city streets by up to 5 miles. This proposal covers more than 170 streets around LA. Many of these streets surround USC. Exposition Boulevard, La Brea Avenue, and Jefferson Boulevard will all see reductions in traffic speed. We spoke with a professor of traffic management and planning who's convinced the city's plan will reduce traffic accidents.
The traffic fatalities went up during the lockdown. But I think there's a general perception among policymakers that people have adopted unsafe driving habits, in part because they got used to higher speeds during the pandemic. And that's part of the rationale for this legislation.
The new ordinance still needs final approval by Mayor Garcetti. It could take effect in about a month.
The new and improved MacArthur Park is now open after a major renovation project. Reporter Sofia Gonzalez shows us the park's makeover and what people in the community think of it.
After being closed for 4 months, MacArthur Park Lakeside has finally opened to the public. The park is now decorated with over 185 new plants and trees and 75,000 square feet of fresh walkways.
Spectacular. It's beautiful. I honestly haven't seen it this pretty since I was a small kid.
The makeover comes at a cost of $1.5 million tax dollars and the removal of over 300 unhoused individuals, according to Councilman Gil Cedillo. MacArthur Park was included in the city of Los Angeles.
MacArthur Park Lakeside was reopened with the hope of giving its neighboring community a place to take a deep breath and escape from the city. I spoke with a few of its community members about their thoughts of the park.
A lot of people that are homeless and they have no place to go, but it seems like when they concentrate in one place, crime rate kind of spikes, and it's difficult if that happens to be in a neighborhood that you live in.
It's just incredible, especially to see all the birds, all the waterfowl and everything. It's just spectacular. And the fountain, it's not shooting muddy water as it once did.
The park will close every evening at 10:30 p.m. Unarmed security officers will be on site from late afternoon to early morning. For Annenberg Media, I'm Sofia Gonzalez.
Food insecurity is a serious problem in Los Angeles, affecting at least 34% of all households in LA County. But one woman is on a mission to make good food more accessible for everyone. Nina Womack is an activist and humanitarian from South LA. Her Let's Be Whole pantry recovers good food that would be otherwise thrown away and donates it all to underserved communities. Womack has experienced food insecurity and homelessness. She says donating these items helps to feed a lot of people and reduce food waste.
This is a mobile pop-up food pantry, the Let's Be Whole mobile pop-up food pantry. I've contacted like grocery stores and asked them what are they doing with their food waste. Instead of throwing it into the landfill, people could use that. I'm born in Los Angeles, born and raised in South LA, so I know what it's like to struggle. So this is like, as a humanitarian and going through homelessness and food insecurity, this is my way to give back to the community so they don't suffer the way that I suffered.
Womack says food belongs to the people, not landfills. For more information about the food pantry, visit letsbewhole.com.
Feeling pressure to look at the glass half full? We take a deep dive into this harmful mentality.
Black women in action are finding new ways to educate about COVID-19. Find out what purpose this organization will serve.
A new snack place is here. Check out how adorable these cookies are.
Worried your friend's struggling but don't know how to reach out?
You could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could write them a text or knit them a sweater. If you can't be together, you could write them a letter. Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking. You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You could ask on your couch while you binge watch. However you do it, you gotta ask a friend. And if they don't share, you can ask again. Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking.
There are a lot of ways to reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
The Black Women Rally for Action of LA hosted its second annual covering of prayer for 2022. The event featured songs and prayers focused on uplifting the Black community. One event coordinator explains that the Zooms were inspired by the disconnect created by COVID-19.
It all started as a result of the COVID pandemic. And we wanted to find a way to give people an opportunity to fellowship and to have prayer on subjects that, we don't normally see or hear about. And so our whole idea is to motivate people and let them know hope has not gone anywhere. Hope is still here. All you have to do is just breathe.
Black Women Rally for Action also spreads information about COVID by hosting events. Anderson says that the power of the organization lies within education.
Our power comes from making sure people are educated and made aware of what's in their community. Was when they started doing the first testing for COVID, there wasn't a lot of testing in the African American community or the brown community. And so we started knocking on doors and making phone calls. We were like, where are they?
Black Women for Action will continue to host prayer Zooms every month. Each conversation will focus on a different aspect of those affected by COVID-19.
Midterms are right around the corner, and you might be under pressure to ignore all the stress, all the anxiety, and instead focus on the bright side of life. Ella, is there a name for this feeling?
Cassie, there is most definitely a name for this feeling, and it's called toxic positivity. I spoke with an expert about this mindset and the net it might be casting here on campus.
In the wellness world, I think more recently, there's this massive emphasis on optimism, positive thinking, and it's sort of positive thinking at all costs. It's sort of putting a positive shellac over everything. It really came out of the influencer, social media, the personality who shows up always like super sunny and everything's amazing. And this idea that it's better to be positive as a blanket statement. It's just not true. It's just not true. If we're not experiencing negative emotions, then we're not attending to reality, period. And we are hearing someone that's just overly positive, everything's kind of saccharine sweet, and there's no attention to the reality of life, which often is very difficult. And there's not like, it's almost delusional. There's a part of our, maybe it's just this sort of like inner authenticity detection meter. It's sort of like something's off here.
Dr. Hyun says that in order to live our happiest lives, we need to sit and really marinate in those negative emotions, which can be incredibly uncomfortable. I got my jacket on and walked around campus to see if students had any knowledge of the concept and how it affects our community.
Well, I think a lot of students, they like to in times of trauma or hardships, they like to use toxic positivity and humor in a way to cope. Because now that I know what it is, it's a bit concerning because yes, sadness doesn't feel great, but it's something you should feel. And sometimes after a little cry sesh, it does feel better.
I haven't heard that much about toxic positivity, which is why I didn't know anything about it. So obviously I think it's something that needs to be talked about more on campus.
Over the top positive comments, constantly trying to be positive to the point where it's kind of maybe annoying or too much. Maybe kind of glorifying the highs, make it seem like you're always going to be positive, not normalizing that they're low moments too.
Sometimes people who are toxically positive might reframe those things into more positive thoughts, which may actually be counterproductive in the long run. If I had somebody around me constantly that was just so upbeat all the time, it's I appreciate the energy that requires, but it's not. I think people need to be a little more realistic.
Dr. Hyun explained that we need to experience pain and grief in order to experience joy in its fullest. And this means remembering that the glass isn't always half full, and that's perfectly okay.
As you can see, it's been cold on campus, really, really windy, and I'm sure Lupe is going to tell us all about it. Lupe, what's your forecast?
Yes, Cassie, let me tell you. First of all, I hope my Trojans are doing good mid-semester, picking up the speed, and what also was picking up speed is the LA weather with them gusty winds. The sun doesn't really dictate how windy and cold it was today, but currently it's 54 degrees, meaning that I hope you have a jacket. And as your 4-day forecast, look at this. So we're into the 60s Thursday, Friday, and then we get into the weekend, 70s. And then once we get into Monday, we'll feel it a little, the sun, we'll feel the sun for sure. But without a doubt, if you were outside for the USG voting or just walking around, you felt the windiness. So make sure you keep a jacket warm. And that's all for me here in sports. Let's toss it to sports. That's all for me here in weather. Let's toss it to sports because I hear Sam did a little something. So I want to know all about it, Eli.
USC starts its season on the sand. Men's basketball hits the Oregon Trail, and find out why I gave Galen Center a big smooch after Sunday's win. All coming up in sports.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. and finally, a close field.
Is it cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, catch. Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Welcome to ATVN Sports. I'm Eli Kleinmann.
And I'm Sam Reno. USC Beach Volleyball begins its national title defense tomorrow as they travel to take on 15th ranked Long Beach State. The preseason top-ranked Trojans returned 4 All-Americans this season in Slater, Kraft, Gradina, and Scholes, and they look to repeat the feat of those 2016 and 2017 teams who won 2 NCAA titles in as many seasons. Eli, going back-to-back is one of the toughest feats in all of sports, but this team returns a ton of talent, and they're one of the most well-renowned programs in the country. What should we expect from them this season?
I expect a great season from USC Beach Volleyball. You mentioned all the talent they bring back, but that number 2 team in the country is UCLA. That's who USC beat in the title game last season, and when they head down to Alabama for the NCAA tournament in May, I think UCLA is going to come out on top this year. USC will not go back-to-back in 2022.
I mean, of course, repeating is incredibly tough, and that Bruins team is going to be really talented. Shout out Sophie Sweat. But this USC team added 2 all Pac-12 transfers this year in Sonny Villapondo and Caroline Schaefer from Stanford and Cal. Expect those 2 to be the push this USC team needs to get across the finish line once again.
USC men's basketball heads to Oregon this weekend to take on the Beavers and the Ducks. According to Ryan Karchi of the LA Times, Boogie Ellis left practice on crutches today. Sam, how does this shift your outlook for the Trojans?
Well, most of all, Eli, this just hurts my heart as the #1 Boogie enthusiast. But as of now, all reports are he's expected to suit up this weekend, and they're going to need him. This team gets contributions from different guys on different nights. Isaiah Mobley is the leading scorer on this team, but when he's out, sometimes it's Drew Peterson. When Peterson doesn't have it, sometimes it's Boogie Ellis. Even Max Agbonkpolo stepped up and hit big shots. They've gotten contributions from Chavez Goodwin. And let's be honest, this Oregon State team hasn't won a game since the calendar turned to 2022, and Oregon is reeling, having lost 3 or 4, including tough losses to Cal and Arizona State. I still think we can expect an undefeated weekend with Boogie or without.
Well, Thursday's the perfect time for Oregon State to pick up their first, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Oregon State will beat USC, and so will the Ducks. Oregon State has Gerard Lucas. He always puts up a career high against USC. We'll do it again on Thursday. The Beavers beat the Trojans in Corvallis last season. The Ducks will also get the win. They beat USC earlier this season. This is a must-win game for them to make the NCAA tournament. They have the home crowd behind them, and Matthew Knight Arena is always rocking.
Well, assuming Boogie Ellis does suit up this weekend, expect him to turn Corvallis into Corvellis. And speaking of Boogie, he lit Galen Center up on Sunday night with 21 points on 6 of 10, including that incredible buzzer beater fade away from just outside the free throw line. But before we get to that, Eli, I believe you have more from the student section?
Well, Sam, you were certainly a part of it, all in the action. After USC beat Washington State on Sunday, let's roll the tape of Sam having a special moment with the Galen Center floor. Now let's break down that final play when Boogie Ellis hit the game winner.
Whoa. You said it yourself. Boogie's my Valentine.
All right, here you go. Let's go.
All right, you can see here he just gets the ball back from Drew Peterson, calls for the screen from Isaiah Mobley, but decides not to use it, thinking he has a step on Roberts here, who he's going to attack with his right hand.
And that is when Boogie Ellis starts to drive with under 10 seconds to go. But Roberts is all over him, and Boogie Ellis is a smart player, one of the smartest on USC's team. He knows he has nowhere to go, so he backs it out to the far wing.
You can see here that escape dribble he's talking about here with his right hand creates a little bit of separation that Roberts has to close down, coming out with his lead right foot and right hand. Ellis is smart. He realizes this and takes advantage, exploding back to his left hand.
Exactly, that left hand, one of his strengths. Drew Peterson doesn't have a left hand. Boogie Ellis does. He has it right here in his left hand. He's going to drive. But what he does so well is you see Roberts all over him. Boogie Ellis has to create separation to get that final shot off. And he does exactly that just before the buzzer.
And you talk about that separation. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3 possible defenders that could contest this shot, but that step back creates so much room between him and Roberts here that this is almost an uncontested jumper for him for the free throw line, and of course he knocks that down.
And Drew Peterson's calling for the ball up here. He wants it. It's Boogie time. It was his shot, his moment. He hit the game winner. Sam, one more time. Let's kiss the floor, please. That's going to wrap it up for sports. Coming up next, good things crumble to those who wait.
Lávate las manos por 20 segundos como Elmo.
Hay algo especial acerca de este lugar. Se siente como un hogar, una sala debajo del cielo y los árboles. Rodeado de aire fresco y la naturaleza. Todo aquí para que lo disfrutemos y para que lo cuidemos. Tenemos la responsabilidad de cuidar de esta tierra que llamamos casa, de preservarla para las generaciones que vienen. Cada acción pequeña contribuye para un cambio mayor y cada uno de nosotros podemos hacer la diferencia. Hay algo especial acerca de este bosque. Es un lugar donde se hacen recuerdos y juntos podemos preservarla y protegerla.
Fresh out the oven and straight to the USC Village, a new location of Insomnia Cookies had its soft opening just outside of campus. The store is set to officially open its doors this Saturday. The dessert shop is located between Ramen Kenjo and Kabunga Korean Grill. And unlike most businesses at the USC Village, this place is open until 1 a.m., late enough to satisfy those after-hour cravings. They serve a wide variety of cookies and ice cream.
Sometimes late at night, you get really hungry, and even though the dining halls, they close at 9, 10, so it's nice to have something that's open late.
I think we waited for about 45 minutes. I think it's definitely better than Baked Bear.
I haven't actually tried it, so let's see if they're as good as people say. It's honestly not bad. It's crunchy, but soft on the inside. I would 97% recommend people buying it.
The location is open for both pickup and delivery. This is the third Insomnia Cookies to open in Los Angeles. The other two are located near UCLA's campus and in West Hollywood. Sydney, I was dying to try one of those cookies, but the line was pretty long, so I had to head back to the media center, but I think we should hit it up after the show.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna take you and I'm gonna drag you over to the USC Village. I'm so excited to try them.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for watching Annenberg TV News. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Cassie Esparza.
And I'm Sydney Charles. For more coverage, watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Annenberg Media. Good night.